We've really not had very many nice days this year at all, but one of the very best we had was this evening, 10th of May, and it just happened to coincide with an absolutely fantastic auroral display. Now, this was an event witnessed by millions of people all over the Northern Hemisphere, so it's no surprise that there are lots and lots of photographs around. But this was my experience of it. I went and got into position, I suppose, about half an hour before dark and watched the sun go down, and it really wasn't long after that before it became obvious that there was an arc forming, or more than an arc actually. It very quickly became apparent this was all over the sky. It was absolutely everywhere. What we're looking at here is what's called a corona, and that's when you get basically parallel rays, and these extend upwards into the upper atmosphere for hundreds of miles. So from our perspective they appear to converge and you get this kind of vortex type effect. Absolutely fantastic. The colours you see here are not far off true actually. The camera picks up more than your eye can see, but on this occasion the magnetic storm was so intense that I could see quite a bit of red and some pink and certainly a bit of green. Now, I've seen the Aurora numerous times in Norway, but I'd never seen it this strong in the United Kingdom. In fact, I think this ranks as one of the strongest I've ever seen. It went on quite literally all night. I had to fold and go to bed by about 2:30, but it was still going. What you see next are a few rather low-quality time-lapse shots. And although they're time-lapse, because the display was so intense, they're not actually that far off the level of movement I was seeing. So there was visible movement and very visible colour that night. This is my favourite view of all of them, I think. It's right outside my back door. Absolutely tremendous. Another really impressive route to take in the Dales is Buttertubs Pass. This is a very high stretch of road that runs about 1,700 feet above sea level between Hawes and Thwaite, so it joins up two of the Dales, as you'll see in a minute. But I'd particularly like to dedicate this section to Joe from Oklahoma in the United States, who very kindly donated to my Buy Me a Coffee page a few weeks ago. Joe said he'd enjoyed reading the Harriet books and has a particular fondness for the Yorkshire Dales. So thank you very much for supporting the channel, Joe. This section is for you. In a moment you'll see just how steep the roadside is. There are barriers further along with steel hawsers linking them together. You definitely wouldn't want to roll your vehicle down there. I don't think it would be survivable. It was a bit of a grey overcast day that day, and what we're driving through there is actually low cloud rather than mist. I wish we'd had much better weather to show off the countryside, but like I said earlier, those sort of days have been in very short supply this year. Even in marginal weather, though, I'm constantly reminded when I drive around like this of how lucky I am to live in such a beautiful part of the country. In fact, sometimes I wonder why I didn't make the move back up here sooner, because I've certainly missed it. If you live in Britain, you'll know the cultural impact of our highly changeable weather and the crucial importance of a really good fish and chip shop. Unfortunately, the summer this year has been so wet that access to autumnal food has become a priority. Luckily, where I live, the cod and chips come to you in the form of our local mobile Chippy. I don't come down here absolutely every week, he lied, but it's nice not to have to cook, and the mice enjoy a chip too. Or at least they do once they're done arguing over it. Things have moved on quite a bit since I first moved here. When I initially came here, this room was just full of boxes, but it's become my arty crafty type space. And when I'm not particularly inundated with work, I spend my time making stuff, and at the moment I've been turning my hand once again to making resin clocks, cast epoxy resin clocks. And I start off with a wooden disc which I paint up and then add various things for the figures and encase the whole thing in resin. It's quite pleasant pastime, quite sort of disengaging and relaxing. And I've been honing the resin casting technique. That's been getting better as I've gone on. I've mostly been doing these as presents for friends and family, although I have more recently had a couple of people say, you know, do you make those to sell? And I certainly can do that, but I'm naturally wary of trying to turn another hobby into a job. I did that before with target shooting, so I think if this became a thing, I would probably do it as one of those kind of semi-retired pastimes. We have had the occasional fine day in August, and well, it's difficult to know which way the weather's really going, which is true generally, but at the moment it seems to be veering more towards autumn, or that's how it's feeling. So I've fired up the chimney again, taking the lazy way out and just let the blowtorch do the job there. We were rewarded with a couple of nice fine evenings. This one in particular was absolutely beautiful. And guess what happened? Not many hours after that, we had another Aurora. Now this one, it was much more short-lived. It was nothing like May, but there was a sudden intense burst of activity late in the evening, well, actually in the small hours. It just suddenly became really bright, as you can see here, and I got a couple of decent shots out of it. I suppose there must have just been a flurry of activity from the sun at that moment, and it produced that. I was, however, quite surprised to be able to see colour and movement with the naked eye at that point. There was one particularly warm day where the mice were obviously wilting a little bit from the heat, so they got rather keen on their water bottle. I've never seen 6 of them try and have a go like this before, but there they were. If they'd gone on like this for too long, I was going to put a second bottle out, but as it happened, everybody got a drink in the end, and they settled down. And here we have two, what can I say, two mice of very different sizes, sausages and Nutcap, and I thought it would be interesting. Well, there you go. Nutcap is obviously smaller than sausages because sausages likes to eat and eat and eat. So I thought I'd find out just how big they actually are.
Okay, on you go. You stand on there. 70 grams? Oh, good grief. What a mouse. You're a mouse and a half, aren't you? Hey. Come on then. Come on. Come on. All right, don't worry. It's not for long, darling. Oh, 37 grams, 38 grams. Yeah, half the mouse.
And then cleaning day.
Come on then, everybody over. Come on. Wagon's over. She's got the idea.
It's quite interesting how they've picked up this knack of switching from one tray to the other. In the beginning I encouraged them a little bit, but they seem to learn by, I don't know, observation and repetition or something. They are actually a lot more intelligent than people give them credit for, but having said that, there are times when mouse logic just defies all reason.
Oh, every time. Oh, no, please, God, don't do that. Oh, her eyesight's so poor. No, thank you.
Meanwhile, work continues in the background on my Krakatoa project. I wish you could have seen my neighbour's face when I told him I was going back indoors to build a volcano. But what I was trying to do is work out really what the island might have looked like, because it's on the bottom of the sea nowadays, so apart from the written record and some photographs, we don't know exactly what the surface of the island looked like. Anyway, I thought I would close out this time with some footage from the forthcoming video, so thank you for watching and see you next time.